This is Deborah Taveras with StopTheCrime.net. We're here at a community meeting to discuss rebuild permits with many of the fire victims who have gathered here at this meeting to talk to the city officials. Sadly, the people here in Sonoma County are being massively deceived by the rebuild process. What do I mean by that? Well, I just attended a water meeting today, and I learned that there's benzene, of course, in the water supply in a large area of Fountain Grove, which we now call Fountain Grave. And what has occurred is toxins in the soil as well. They're giving bottled water to about 324 homes, and of course that's not solving the problem with the fact that they're taking showers and getting benzene in their largest organ of their skin. But
we're going to get started.
Okay, I will. They're going to get started, so I will fill you in. But this is a Delphi meeting. Again, I will show you the paper. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm just going to hold this up for a second. This is a Delphi meeting. People will be encouraged to fill this out with a pen. They will not be allowed to ask questions at the microphone. This is not an open mic. This is a controlled meeting. So we'll follow this up as the meeting continues. Thank you.
This was an announcement for the Spanish speakers that will require translation. Thank you. That's it.
Great. Thank you everyone for coming tonight. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is David Ewan. I'm with the City of Santa Rosa. I'm the Director of Planning and Economic Development and the Assistant City Manager. We're very proud to be here tonight. We have a big group of people here to answer questions. We've got tables in the back, a lot of resources for you. We're going to stay here to answer as many questions as we can for you. But the way we're going to run tonight is that we're going to have an opportunity for the agencies to talk a little bit. First, we're going to have FEMA and the Corps of Engineers come up and give a brief update on the renewal process. Then we'll dive into an overview of the rebuild process. So myself on the city side and my good friend Dennis Wick from the Permit Sonoma will be giving an update on the permit process on both the county and the city process. Then we'll open up the audience for Q&A. So we know we have a lot of questions out there on the rebuild effort. There are cards that are around on your chairs, the blue cards and pink cards. If you could put a question on that, we'll collect those, we'll read those, and then we'll go ahead and answer those. We have people walking around in blue shirts with...
I'm trying to get him to move the podium,
here at
but now there's no sound recording.
Excuse me, could you move the podium? You're half in the
screen.
Camera and half not.
Okay, after we answer a few questions, what we're going to do is break into tables. So we have tables in the back for both the city, the county, the water department, and then there's also the Corps of Engineers in the room out the hallway. So we have to answer more specific one-on-one questions if you have them. So a couple opportunities to ask questions. If you have do either on the card or come in person, and we'll be sure to answer those questions for you. So that's the basic run of how tonight's going to work. We're going to go ahead and get started first with the Corps of Engineers. So first, please help me welcome Robert Espane. He's the Branch 1 Director for FEMA, and Colonel McFadden from the U.S. Corps of Engineers to talk about the delivery process.
Thank you for having me here tonight. I'm Robert Espane. I'm the Branch 1 Director overseeing the recovery efforts for Sonoma, Mendocino Lake, and Napa counties. First of all, I want to touch quickly on our individual assistance program, what we've done to date. It's hard to think that we're a little over 4 months now into this recovery effort from the October fires. On the individual assistance side, we've already dispersed $15 million in the hands of survivors. It's a combination of other youth assistance and housing assistance. The Small Business Administration has approved over $120 million. That's a combination of home loans as well as business loans. And we've been working aggressively with county and city officials on the debris removal, which is our largest effort here in the county, Currently, we have in the back, once we break the tables, we have staff in the individual assistance team. So if you're still having any issues with your FEMA application, received a denial, or still looking through your insurance or you're underinsured, please continue to work with FEMA. Our job is trying to get to yes if we can and want to be responsive to your needs. So we do have a team in the back. Equally important and timely in this topic of rebuilding is mitigation. So how do you build your home back better and stronger? And so we have staff in the back to talk about our mitigation programs and some best practices that you can undertake as you go through your rebuild. In terms of the debris removal, for Sonoma County, we're 73% complete on debris removal. That includes complete removal of debris, the initial debris phase in Coffee Park. We're making steady progress in Fountain Road. I also want to emphasize that we can continue to move quickly with this debris removal with moving about 25,000 tons of debris a day, over 700 trucks on the road. We are looking as quickly and safely as possible. To get into a little more details on the debris removal mission, please join here by Colonel McFadden, who's the commander of the entire Corps of Engineers mission and overseeing our line contractors. With that, I'm going to turn it over to McFadden.
All right, thank you. First of all, thank you everybody. I'm honored to be here in front of you tonight. I can tell you that we wouldn't be here right now in the progress we're at if it didn't take the whole community to get there. Just kind of echo some of the things Robert talked about. Across all 4 counties, we're at about 76% right now. We've moved about 1.4 million tons of debris in Sonoma County alone. Just to echo, about 72%, 1.1 million tons alone, just in Sonoma County. Highlight, that means 2,860 parcels have been cleared of debris. However, we're in a phase right now, which is called the final prep phase. And so what we'll be doing on each one of these parcels, for roughly about 800 parcels that are remaining, we're looking at removing cars, installing some erosion control, sampling will be conducted and continue to go on, and then also hand debris cleanup. And then final quality control checks before the county is notified that the parcel is ready for rebuild. I am with you tonight. Obviously, I brought a crew of some of the Corps of Engineers folks are out in front. You may have seen when you come in. This is where I ask for your assistance. If you do have an issue, please share it with us tonight. We have issue intake forms. We have individuals that are here to answer your questions. And if we can't answer your questions tonight, we will take it back and within about 48, 72 hours get back with you. Well, at least an update on how we're answering the question you've asked of us. Our issue resolution process, the first step in any issue resolution process is understanding the issue. And that's where we need your help. What your issue is, your contact information, and how we can get back to you to address your issue. Without further ado, thank you. It's an honor to be here in front of you, and I look forward to talking to you.
Thank you. And again, they will be here in the back to answer questions after this. So please remember, if you have questions, you can either see them in the back or, again, write them down on a note card and we'll answer them during the Q&A. So the next thing we want to do is give an update on the rebuild process. I'm going to invite Dennis Wick up. Dennis Wick is the Director of Permits Sonoma. And go ahead, we'll let him get started first. There's information behind us on the screen about the City Permit Center and the County Permit Center. We'll talk about both of those, what the process is, what resources there are available to you at those locations, and give an overview of the process. So start with the county first.
Great. Thank you, David. Good evening, everyone. So let me start first with the work that's been going on with fire survivors in the regular permit center. Many of you have been coming through there and getting permits for reconstructing your homes in the burn zone. We have 10 residences under construction there now, 11 bridges of the 72 that were destroyed. So progress is being made out there. It's really heartening to us to see you in our shop, moving through the process quickly and coming out. For those of you who did go through before the board reduced the fee schedule, we are automatically refunding you the difference. You don't need to submit a form. So if you are one of those individuals, hopefully you'll be receiving a check from the county soon. For those of you who have not been through the permitting process yet for the county, we are at day 3 of the Resiliency Permit Center. So this is a separate entity that you'll find outside of our normal office in modular buildings. It's housed by and staffed by West Coast consultants. WC3 is the recipient of the contract. They will be with us for at least 3 years. We're going to be there as long as the need is. And Mike Renner is a principal for the company. He will be the primary contact in the center. Rob Spalding, the gentleman in the black next to him, is he's our chief building official. There'll be any of the gray area questions that come up between the white shirt and the black shirt will be handled through those two. We want to make our customs and practices that aren't clear in our code, get those resolved quickly. We negotiated, I think, a very good contract with WC3. You have a guaranteed reduced rate that's about 35 to 40% lower than the regular fee schedule. You'll be processed to first plan check in no more than 5 days. What we're seeing is that's happening a lot faster. So what we're encouraging is electronic plan check, which most of your designers will be happy to hear about. That helps us facilitate the speed in getting through the system. We have digital scheduling, telephone scheduling. We highly encourage that you contact us for a pre-application meeting. And it doesn't matter where you are in the design process. If you're still at the beginning, maybe you're still trying to work things through with your insurance company, it's never too early to come see us. You can't come see us too much. We want to see you to get your package as complete and thorough as possible before it's submitted so we can get through the process quickly and get you on to construction. So I'll leave it there and look forward to your questions.
Thank you. And if you're in the city of Santa Rosa limits, you'll come to the city's permit center. It's again a separate center. We've been open since November 27th, and we've currently processed as of today, 21 plans have been approved through that program. And just like the county, we have hired additional staff to get that through. We have our Steve Jensen, who's in the back of the room at the back table. He oversees that group with Brian Spain, and Gabe Osborne is at the back table as well to provide answer questions tonight. The center is dedicated for those that are rebuilding, so focus on you. You again, as with the county, we're planning to turn around within 5 days, and we think we're seeing about 2 to 3 day turnaround time on your first plan check, and then a quick, potentially over-the-counter 1 day turnaround time for the final check. So things are moving quickly. Again, the engineers and contractors and architects that are working through are getting used to the system and working with us. So please, if you have questions about the process, if there's issues you're running into, let myself or Steve know, and we'll work through them with you. The center is open Monday through Friday from 8 to 5, so you can come in any day through the week. Again, it's at City Hall. So make sure to come in if you have questions. There's also a phone number there that we answer, and we'll be able to answer your questions over the phone or via email. So any way that you need to get your questions addressed. One of the other things that we are doing, that we're announcing, is that we're going to have a wood chipping program that has been released today. So there's trees and wood debris on properties. We have 2 weekends identified now that we're going to offer a free chipping event. They're February 24th and February 25th. And this information there's a flyer on the back table, so if you want to pick one up and not have to write this down, but it's 2 weekends, February 24th and 25th, be at Nagasaki Park on the 24th and Coffee Park on the 25th. And then the second weekend is March 10th and March 11th. And again, Nagasaki Park on the 10th and Coffee Park on the 11th. And so that'll be an opportunity for you to bring wood debris to have that chipped for free. And we'll utilize those chips around in city parks and everything to reuse that product. In terms of the questions that are coming in, we are seeing a desire to want to take a different look at your home, potentially make changes to your home, your footprint. We understand that, we're expecting that, we're supporting that effort. So if you want to make changes, you don't have to stay strictly to what your footprint is. The staff has been seeing plans come in and seeing people want to update things and working through fairly quickly with those. So please don't feel like you have to stick directly to your footprint. If you have questions about that, if you have ideas, feel free to come in and ask before you go down the path of making too big a change. But again, please talk to us and know that we are working through any changes and modifications that you want to make to your house. So with that, I think we want to give people time to write questions down. We'll ask specific questions here in a minute, but if you have questions, please give them to people that are on the sides. And I'm going to turn it over now to Rick Lopez, who's the Chief Public Affairs of the Contractor State License Board, to give an update on what they're doing out here.
Thank you and good evening. You've gotten some good information, and I'm going to be giving you hopefully some good information as you do look towards hiring a contractor and to move on with the rebuilding project. But in the few minutes that I'm going to be with you, actually, as much as I'd like to avoid this, I kind of want to scare you a little bit and stick with me here, because it's important that as you enter the rebuilding process that you don't let your guard down, and you be sure you keep your guard up. If I could ask, how many of anybody here in the room who has opted out of the main debris cleanup and is taking the responsibility for the cleanup? Do we have anybody in the room that's doing that? Okay, I want you to pay special attention. One of the things that we fear that we are starting to see happen here in Sonoma County, and that is an influx of unlicensed contractors, and we're seeing it, especially as one I'm going to briefly talk about. There is a person who's coming from out of state and has actually leased office space here in downtown Santa Rosa and is working without a license and procuring contracts. We served a search warrant on his office yesterday, and we want to warn you about him because we feel very strongly that he's going to continue to try to take advantage of those of you who are taking care of your own debris removal. His name is Peter Koch, K-O-K-E. He either goes by Koch Cleanup or Koch Demolition. So if anybody has come across or possibly hired him for work, I'd appreciate it if you can stop by and see me after the presentation. We'd like to have our investigators get in touch with you. But if you do get approached, or if he was doing ads on Craigslist and he is around, be very careful. He actually is from North Carolina. This week he was convicted of insurance fraud and actually was sentenced to probation and a couple of years in jail back there. So he is here in this area working and has given us every indication that he plans to stay here. So the warning to you is to be very careful if you're handling your own debris removal. Another thing to let you know is we are starting to see an increase in unlicensed contractors in other areas. On January 27th, about 3 weeks ago, we conducted an undercover sting operation here in Santa Rosa where we used a partially damaged home, and we posted the homeowners, and we ended up catching 13 people who had taken out ads and solicited bids to do rebuilding work. 10 of those people are facing felony charges. Because of the disaster declaration in this area, what is normally a misdemeanor, which is contracting without a license, can be charged as a felony. So 10 of the 13 people we caught will now face felony charges. 2 of those people, and here's a way to be aware, 2 of these people were formerly licensed contractors. They let their license expire, one in 2003 and one in 2011. So they knew they needed to be licensed. They hadn't been licensed for a long time. They were out there passing off their license number saying they were licensed to do the work. So the point is that you need to keep your guard up. You need to be aware that these people are out there. And as much as we try to publicize the fact that this is not the area where they want to come try to get work, they are coming here. And we are working closely with the local law enforcement as well as the Sonoma County District Attorney. As I mentioned, there's pending felony charges against these people we caught. Other people, the District Attorney will be very aggressive. So one of the other things that we would encourage, and we have a flyer back on our table, if you would pick it up. If you do get approached or solicited by anybody who's not properly licensed, we would encourage you to get the information that you can and contact us and give us that information. We'll either get them into a future state operation, or we'll go after them and try to catch them before they can take advantage of anybody. I'm sorry to be kind of a negative Nelly, but unfortunately, we all have to band together and look out for each other. So even if you have the Army Corps and the others taking care of your debris removal. You may have friends or neighbors who are having it. If they're not here tonight, please get that word to them. They need to be very careful when they're looking to hire. A contractor does need to be licensed to do the debris removal, unless you've got just ash left on your plot. If you've got the foundation, if you've got any partial walls, chimneys, any of that kind of stuff, they actually have to be licensed. It's called a C21 demolition license. So if somebody's coming on and saying they can just do the work, be very careful because they really should be licensed to do that work. We also are conducting regular sweep operations through the area. We are part of you're very lucky because there's a North Bay Wildfire Debris and Cleanup Task Force. It's not only the contractors board, but the district attorney and the FBI are involved in this. And so we've got a lot of people here that are wanting to protect you. Okay, so I'll briefly just check on some of the things. If you are looking to hire a contractor, a couple features on our website that I'd like you to know about. One of them has been around for years. It's our instant license check. So if you do have a contractor you're considering or somebody you're considering bringing out to give you some kind of a bid, you want to go ahead and look up their license information on our website. You can plug in either their license number, their business name, or even if they're the owner or somebody on that license, you can plug their name in. Be careful of those because there could be a lot of John Smiths out there. So the best way to search is by a license number. So when you're looking to find a contractor, if you get a flyer or you see a truck parked on the street, look, by law, they're required to have their contractor's license number in any advertisement. That includes a business card, a flyer on the side of their truck, and an ad online. So you want to look, it's a 6 or 7 digit number. Like the gentleman, Mr. Kobai, used earlier, he has applied for a contractor's license, that is on hold. But he was using his application number as saying that's how his license was. I'm waiting for the license to get sent to me. So you want to look, it's either a 6 or 7 digit number. You plug that in, you're going to get the information on them, their name, their address, what license classification, which is very important. You want to make sure that they're licensed to do the kind of work that you're asking for. You also have information on their bond and also workers' compensation, which is very important. You want to make sure if they're going to have a crew out working on your property, that they're properly covered by workers' comp insurance. And that means if they get hurt while they're on your property, they're covered. If they're not, there's a chance they could come after you for their medical bills. So that's the last thing you want to have happen. So you want to be very sure, and you don't necessarily want to take their word for it. Ask them for information on their policy. You can get it on our website, but actually call the company and find out. Make sure that they haven't told the insurance company that they've got 5 office workers, when in reality they've got 10 people out working in the field. They're trying to get cheaper rates, so they're not trying to deceive you. So you have to do your homework with you. It's something you absolutely want to check and be aware of. The other feature that I'd like you to know about is if you're just starting and don't even know who to call out or where you can even find a contractor to try to see if they're available. We've got a new feature, you can see it on our placard back there, but we have flyers for this. It's called Find My Licensed Contractor. All you need to do is you need to plug in either your city or your zip code and the kind of contractor you're looking for. A general contractor is a B license. So there's a drop-down menu, so you would put in Santa Rosa and the B license, hit the button, and you'll get a listing of every contractor in the local area who is licensed with an active B contractor's license. So you're not going to get electricians in that, you're not going to get plumbers, you're going to get that. If you search for electricians, you'll get that list. But you can be rest assured those people are all at that moment properly licensed to do the work. Some of these other websites and features that are out there that say they do background checks on contractors, that may be a good way to go as one of your checks, but there's no guarantee that people on those sites are actually licensed. So our feature, you're 100% guaranteed that they will be a licensed contractor. And finally, just a couple other points to make sure you're aware of. And again, we do have the information. We don't expect you to write all the notes down. We have this that you can take with you. When it comes to down payments, be very careful of any contractor who tries to get a big payment out of you up front. Mr. Kochman mentioned earlier was getting usually between $10,000 and $20,000 up front to do the debris clear. And he took the money and did a little bit of work in some cases no work and took off. So the law in California when it comes to these kind of projects is it's a down payment. You should pay no more than 10% or $1,000, whichever is less. So if your job is somewhat small, and let's say it's $5,000, your down payment should be no more than $500. So if you have a contractor coming and saying, I need half the money up front, I need to get started, I need to go buy my materials, that should be a red flag to you. It's why can't you even have credit? Why don't you do this kind of work? Aren't you a professional business to do this? Be careful of the fly-by-night people who say they need you to front them the money. Your money is your best leverage over getting them to do their work. The law says that you can't ask for more than the 10% or $1,000 as a down payment. And then in your contract, you want to have set up what's called progress payments. When a part of the job gets done to your satisfaction, that's when you pay for that portion of the job. And it's spelled out in your contract. When the next part of the job is done to your satisfaction, you pay for that part of the contract. Don't let your payments get ahead of the work that's being done or the materials. If they're saying they've got to deliver materials they have to pay, you may have to arrange to be there to pay the supplier yourself. Or write a two-party check. Write it to the contractor and to the supply company. Different ways you want to go to protect yourselves. And then there's things you want to be aware of called mechanics liens. I won't get into all the details, but there's a lot of things that can be a very complex process. You really should do your homework. Be rest assured that the contractors board will be here with you. We have lots of information. We have a great 25-minute video to kind of guide you through the rebuilding process. I'd encourage you to watch that. It's on our website. And the last thing is to make sure that you're checking references. You want to actually go out and see the work. B contractors, and there are just in the city of Santa Rosa, there's more than 800 B contractors. But not all contractors who have that license are necessarily competent or have experience building houses. So just because they're licensed to do that doesn't mean that they have experience. So you want to get references from them. You want to find out that they're not getting in over their heads. You actually want to go out and see the work, talk to the homeowner, find out that they show up on time, how the payments go, is the work the quality. You want to actually check them out. And the last thing is, we talked a little bit about the permit centers that have been set up, is make sure that your contractor is the one who's pulling your permits. Don't let a contractor or somebody talk you into declaring yourself as an owner-builder and you pull your own permits. The responsibility in that case falls on you. When the contractor pulls the permits, they are then responsible for making sure that the job passes all the code and all the inspections. If you pull it, it's all on you. So again, sorry if that sounds like I'm being a little bit of a downer, but it really is critically important at this point is to take a deep breath and realize that there's some homework and there's some things you're going to do. But there are a lot of good, competent contractors there, and there's a lot of people out there watching over you and making sure that you're not going to become a victim the second time. So we encourage you to utilize the services. We do have a toll-free hotline that's Monday through Friday from 8 to 5. You bypass our automated system. You'll go right to somebody. If you do have any questions about contractors, feel free to call us up. The number and everything is back on our table. So we encourage you to stop by and we'll look forward to answering any questions you may have later. Thank you.
Mike and Rob, if you could come up. Next one.
Thank you, Rick. That was very helpful information. Again, Rick will be back here. There is a table here for contractors as a board. I guess somebody from the center will come up as well to help answer some of the questions. So we have a list of questions here, and just to help facilitate this, I think we all have questions to go through. So
Now you find out how dumb the directors really are in politics. So first question, Dennis, how much can we extend the house? Expand the house without an extra fee from the county. So we have flat fees for park impact fees, road impact fees. So those are the same, and those are waived actually for your project. So there wouldn't be any increase because they're not being imposed in the first place. Affordable housing, some irony, would be imposed for the increment above what you had before. So what I would encourage is that you come in and see us as part of the pre-application. We establish the square footage that you had before the fire, and then help figure out what the fees will be exactly for your project when it comes in. Yes, sir.
Is it a footprint change or a linear change?
That's the square footage on all levels. Okay. So it looks like the city's still making up answers. For the county, you have it. It's all right. Is it the job of the general contractor to arrange for well and septic inspection and for geotechnical tests? As far as we're concerned, that can be the property owner, it could be your general contractor, it could be your professional. So hopefully that answers the question. As far as well and septic inspection, we're really keeping that at a cursory level to just
Scan the camera over there. They're going through the cards right now.
What we found is
pulling
the
out
fire
cards
impacted the electronics
that
for the
tell
most part
what
on
to
each
speak
one.
about.
And
is
we're
how the
only
defective
requiring something
reports.
called a modified findings report for your septic system. to make sure that it's still functioning. So practically speaking, that means as long as you flush, it does the daylight, we're good to go.
And who has to do that inspection, or is that an affidavit on our part?
Now I'm done, and I'll bring up that first. This is my friend.
Alright, so that can be filled out by a licensed, I believe it's a C46 contractor, a civil engineer, or a registered environmental health specialist. And if you stop by our permit center, we have a list of approved vendors for that service.
Thanks, Mike. Next question, can we have a trailer on our property, basically a fifth wheel until our home's finished? Absolutely. So we have a temporary housing permit, costs a whopping $83, and that allows you to have that trailer there from now until 31 December 2019. I would imagine if need be, we'll extend that with the board's permission. It's really gratifying to me when I go through the fire area to see not only the landscaping coming back, but trailers popping up on properties. That's exactly what we want. We want you back on your land, living there, whether it's in a trailer or a second unit, if you want to build that first, but we want you back on your property. So we're trying to make it as cheap and as easy as possible to get that trailer or whatever unit you're going to use for that transitional housing as soon as possible. Okay, bear with me here. I've got to read different handwritings with 60-year-old guys. My house was built with 2x4s. I'm now required to build with 2x6s, which adds additional cost per square foot. Will the county consider additional square feet subject to reassessment for Prop 13 purposes? So I want to make it very clear we're a permitting agency, and I want to keep our people in our lane. If you have questions when you come down to the Resiliency Permit Center, one of us will be happy to send you or walk you over to a dedicated staffer that's in the assessor's office, and they can answer some very, very specific questions about what tax ramifications, if any, there will be for your project. Please address the costs and permit requirements for replacing all or portions of the septic system. So again, modified findings report to make sure your system is still functioning, as long as we're in the world of septic systems and regulation, it's the number of bedrooms that counts. So if you're bringing back the same number of bedrooms, you're good to go. If you're building more than 640 square feet in additional square footage, then you'll have to upgrade your system to current regulations. If you're not, you're welcome. Thank you. How much can we extend the house without extra fee in the county? We already addressed that. And having an RV on your property while construction is going on, and what type of permit you need. So again, the temporary housing permit for the whopping $3. So you'll be good to go. Okay, this last question here. I need to know how much, very nice writing. I need to know how much I can recover from insurance before I can decide if I can rebuild. How can I find out the code upgrades that would apply? Great question. There are a lot of older homes were destroyed out there, and we're going to, of course, people will be building to the new building code. So again, that's a really good question for pre-application when you come in. And again, so here's someone who's starting pretty much at the beginning.
Sean, going through that.
We encourage you to come in and visit. And the contact information is backed by Maggie Fleming, who will be raising her hand. Maggie's our communications manager, and would also encourage you to take that and review the city and county's websites
because
They won't
that's
ask
where
it.
we're
They're
going to be
both looking at it right now.
updating
Look,
information.
they're looking at it right
You
now.
folks are generating a lot of good
Deciding
questions,
whether or
so we
not
want to
they'll
provide
even
the
let it
answers
fly.
there too, because many of your neighbors have the same questions. Also, the block captains meetings that are held weekly.
Yep, at the bottom of the
fire
pile.
survivors at the water agency, Wednesday mornings at 7:30. Great resource there. Not only to hear from us, the regulators, but service providers like PG&E, and from each other about finding economies of scale. We're also setting up block captains meetings for non-fire survivors in Sonoma Valley. And as soon as that location and time is made final, we'll be posting that on the website as well. So I'll hand it over to Dave for information from the city.
All right, so a question about accessory dwelling units, second units, asked about what are they and how are they, or the fees, what are they and how are they determined? So the fees for second units, we do have a fee schedule for that, but just in general, we did institute a new ADU policy similar to the county. Anything 750 square foot or less, we waive the demand fees except the water connection fees were required. Anything over 750 square feet would have an incremental cost. So again, those costs, there's a fee schedule on our website, and you can check in the back for more detailed information on that. But we did lower the cost threshold to try to encourage more second units to be built. We are encouraging second units, as with the county. Policy went into effect to allow people to build their second unit first if that's something you want to do prior to your main residence. That's an option.
Called downsizing Santa Rosa.
Another question, is the city encouraging electronic plan checks mills? Yes, we're doing that as well. We do encourage that. Another question, are there any special permit issues, provisions for using prefab, such as hybrid core or panelized plans? So things such as hybrid core, prefab involves the state, so it would be a slightly different process where the state would approve the unit itself first, and then it would go through a site review through the city process. So just be aware of the two-step process if you do use this process, but we do allow it, and we do support that product. This one is, sorry. I think this has to do with security in the neighborhoods with supplies being stolen. Our police force and the sheriff departments are aware of this and understand the fact that there's going to be a lot of construction, a lot of materials, a lot of equipment that's out all at one time through the reconstruction of 5,000 homes. So they do have a plan in place to make rounds, to keep an eye on things. So we'll have to make sure that law enforcement stays on top of that, and they are aware of it.
Heavy surveillance, increased surveillance around the
Kansas City
city.
published a short list of the top 20 or so universal code upgrades since 1970 for insurance purposes. Yes, we could do that. We could pull something together to give basically a cheat sheet of those upgrades. Yeah, it's a great idea. Thank you. If the footprint of your old home was not compliant with current setback requirements, can we rebuild in the old footprint? We will grandfather you to build back into what you were before if you build exactly back to that space. The only caveat we would have is if a creek setback. So if you're close to the creek for safety reasons, we want to check on that. But please come in to the office and talk with either the city or county before you move too far on that, just so we can make sure that it's done in an appropriate way.
Creek would be a real problem.
How do you prove the original setback?
That was our first customer when we opened.
Please ask the question. We didn't hear.
The question was, what do you do if you can't demonstrate how big or where your house was? So a rural property owner came in, had a permit history of just a shed on the property. So we went over to the assessor's office, got her the field notes, and worked with her to come up with what we thought was a reasonable determination. Processed her design review that same day. So again, I would encourage you to come in. We'll work with you and other parts of the county government to do our best to establish a threshold. We don't find that people are wildly fibbing in this process. We know you're just trying to get to where you were before, so we can work it out. That's a great thing to come in and start with. So we encourage you to come in and visit.
I hope you caught The prior question about being near waterways, that's going to be a real big problem because of the restrictions of water.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Steve Osborne. I'm the Deputy Director of Development Services for the City of Santa Rosa, and I'm going to go through a stack of the city-related questions here. So the first one, will the city allow trailers on site for temp housing, and what is the process and the cost? We will. The process is fairly straightforward. It can be done at our Resilience Center. We have a handout that covers the steps that need to be done to connect that to power, to sewer, to water, whatever your preference is, and the fees are waived for that process. So that is actually detailed in the document the county back. The second question, with reference to home sprinkler requirements, Hidden Valley Estates water pressure is reported to be inadequate for residential sprinklers. Will the city do anything about this? So typically the static pressure in the water system is very difficult to control. It's based on a lot of factors. So for properties that have lower pressure, it's usually a tank and a pump that's actually installed on site to get over that pressure issue. Oftentimes there's not really much that can be done because of the overall impact that a pressure change has. Quick add-on to that?
Is it possible just to pipe in a heavier pipe and then drop down the smaller pipes to up that pressure?
It won't probably give you the drastic pressure increase you're looking for. The upsize in the pipe helps from a volume standpoint for the sprinkler system, but some of those older properties is the pressure issue. So it's fairly typical to see the tank and the pump to account for that.
Who pays for the pump?
It's actually part of the rebuild process. It's a private tank and pump, so it's actually part of your sprinkler system. So the property owns it. So the next question is very close to that, fire sprinkler cost and water pressure question mark. Very similar to the fire sprinkler cost. The fire sprinkler designer will spec that out. A contractor produce the cost associated with that, and water pressure question was the last question. If your house or detached garage was close to the property line and you changed your footprint, how close can you rebuild? Can you utilize grandfather distances? So that's very similar to some of the other questions. We do grandfather in if you're actually building outside of current setbacks, the existing footprint. That can be determined, but overall you have to stay within the footprint. Is there a list of people who do geotechnical reports? So that is actually a licensed professional. Usually what we've recommended people do is the North Coast Builders Exchange or local affiliated groups of that nature are pretty good resources to identify those types of licensed professionals. And the last here is multiple part. It says the sequence for changing footprint, and it has a checklist. It says number 1, check on setbacks on property. Number 2, get a basic architectural design. Number 3, check with city planning. Number 4, final architectural plans. Number 5, get permit from the city. Is this correct? It's a pretty good sequence. Usually what I recommend is start with the city first because you can determine your setbacks. If you have a general conceptual idea as to what you want to do, it doesn't hurt to let us know to give us an idea how that's going to fit in. At some point, that conceptual review is helpful, but if you can get some direction without that conceptual review from the city, you might be able to jump that a little bit, start there, and then move through your professional review with your architect and then get to the permit process.
Will you also be requiring site surveys by licensed professionals in this process?
So the site survey, and this is really the city side, is really looking at to determine spatially where you place the foundation within the setback. So in a lot of these properties, the monuments that currently exist on the property that were a good indicator of where your property line were, they could be gone, they may still be there. What we've seen in Coffee Park is it's a bit of a mixed bag. If they're there and you can measure that off to where the foundation is placed within the setbacks, that is one way that it can be done. If those monuments don't exist, you likely will need to get a surveyor to certify that the foundation is placed appropriately in the lot.
You say the city is waiving the temp occupancy for residents?
Yes, for residential housing.
They are, but the county's not.
So could you just restate the question for us?
Me?
Yes.
Well, I just asked him to clarify if the city was waiving the temp occupancy. And I just wonder why the city would, but the county wouldn't.
How would we be waiving temp occupancy?
You don't have the fee for occupancy, or?
Apparently that's what he said, they're waiving the fee.
The permit process.
Oh, so we've got, so as I mentioned, the fees, $83. And that's what the board has established, and that's what we're charging.
so far, I paid 117 for tech power, 145, you have my septic.
So I'm aware of your situation, and we can talk afterward, because we need to get money back to you. Yeah?
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. So if you can see us afterward, yeah, we'll get things made right. You bet. Thanks for your patience. So a question from a customer here. If my home had a 3-bedroom septic, had 3 bedrooms and only a 1-bedroom septic capacity, can we rebuild the same thing? Come see us. Bring your wall. We'll work. So what I would suggest is come see us, bring your septic, bring the contractor. Don't bring the system. Fairly small enough to maybe you could, but we're going to have to work with you there and find a solution that's unique. Can a pool be considered as a tank for a sprinkler system?
Not generally,
No.
In a pinch, yes.
So next we wanted to go to Jason. Jason has one question and make him feel validated.
Good evening, my name is Jason Nutt. I'm the Director of Transportation and Public Works and the Interim Director of Recreation and Parks for the City of Santa Rosa. And I had my one question that you all asked. And it relates to sidewalks and what's the city doing in relation to sidewalks in the Bern area. And we are in the process of working with our partners, both at FEMA, the Army Corps of Engineers, and our utility partners to try to provide the best system at the end of the day to make the sidewalks look and feel appropriate when you all are done finished with your houses. Am I being a little evasive? A little bit. Partly because we don't totally know exactly what the final project's going to be. We don't know how much will be reimbursed by FEMA as far as determining if the sidewalk is truly damaged or if the sidewalk is still in fairly decent condition. That's a process we're going to be working on over the next 60 days with FEMA. We already have an agreement with the Army Corps of Engineers that if the debris removal process damaged the sidewalk, they would agree to compensate and repair the sidewalk. We've also been working with PG&E and other utilities along the same lines. If they have to do undergrounding work that results in trenching across the sidewalk that will result in damage, then they are also going to be compensating to make that right. Realistically, we don't want to rebuild the sidewalk 3 times. We want to rebuild it once. And so that's part of the coordination effort that we're trying to figure out to make sure that it's all done properly. So that's where we're at there. The other part of the question related to street trees. Street trees that are burned that will not regenerate will be removing as a part of the removal process. We do not have a program for replanting trees at this time. We're going to be working with our Recreation and Parks team to determine how we might try to repopulate roadside trees as well as landscape areas. There's a significant amount of landscaping up in the Fountain Road area in particular that was burned and completely damaged as a function of this fire. We do not have a restoration plan at this time. We are working on that as we speak to determine what options we might have to bring those back. We do know that FEMA will be helping reimburse us for the cost of irrigation and electrical componentry associated with those landscape areas, but they will not reimburse us for the cost of the trees to replant. And so we're working on this program right now. We'll be happy to provide more updates as we get further down the line. Sir?
Yes, dealing with the damaged sidewalks, what about the approaches to the house, driveways going up the street between the sidewalk and the street?
So I might need some help from my friends in planning and economic development. I'll give you my input, or do you want to take over this one? My input is realistically the driveway is that of the property owners, and it should be a function of the property owner to reconstruct. The city is taking on responsibility in this particular case to rebuild sidewalks. Those of you who live in the city probably are aware the city has delegated responsibility for ongoing maintenance and care of the sidewalk to fronting property owners. Because it is the public right-of-way, we are working with FEMA and our federal partners to try to recover the cost of repairing those sidewalks on behalf of not only you as the property owner, but us as the public who will use that. Did I cover the driveway? So the driveway approach would be something that the property owner would need to cover as a part of your recovery on the site. Sir?
Is there any plans to make Fountain Grove Parkway a fire barrier or fire break for future fires?
So our fire marshal will come up and answer that question shortly. All right, thank you very much.
Okay, last two questions, and then just a reminder that county officials will be over here to answer any questions that you have after this. So, good question here. For geotechnical tests, can a group of neighbors use one geotechnical report to save costs? Perfect example of economy of scale. Yes, and we've already worked out a protocol with all the geotechnical engineers in the county about how this can actually happen. I won't go into the details now, but the answer is yes, and I think it's a good thing that we're doing in cooperation with the design community. Last question is road repair. Kenwood resident asking about road condition and when it would be repaired at Lawndale and Schultz. I know exactly the part you're talking about, where there's holes and a washout. As a permit director, don't know, but I'll find out. So come up to see me afterward. I'll get your contact information and get the public works director in contact with you. Thank you.
I'm going to turn it over to the fire marshal. Scott.
Hey, good evening. My name is Scott Moon. I'm the fire marshal with the Santa Rosa Fire Department. The question that was asked, the gentleman that just raised it, is can Fountain Grove Parkway be changed to act like a fire barrier? And Fountain Grove Parkway is a main thoroughfare through our community. It services over 1,500 homes up in that location, so that would not be practical at this point. Anymore. We will be working with all the homeowners and private properties through that area to ensure that we maintain vegetation management requirements as well as defensible space moving forward in the rebuild process. Thank you.
I'm going to turn it over to Ben Hornstein, who's the Santa Rosa Water Director.
So as Dave noted, Ben Hornstein, the Director of Santa Rosa Water. A couple questions here. Can you provide an update on the water quality contamination in Fountain Grove? That question assumes a certain baseline of understanding. I think generally folks do understand as a result of fire. We do have some contamination in a designated area that you've seen on maps, and there's one back there in the Fountain Grove.
It's a broader designated area of contamination than they're saying.
The cause and nature of this contamination. It is very unique. Typically in fires in areas like this, you don't see this around the country.
Because it was a directed energy weapon hit.
We're working closely with state, local, federal regulators and a team of national experts to help us.
To cover the reality of the fire.
I've set an internal deadline to complete the investigation by the end of March in order to have a plan moving forward in place on how we're going to take care of this issue, how we're going to mitigate this contamination issue. I do want to say that at this point, it does look like, more likely than not, we're going to have a wholesale replacement of the entire water distribution system in that advisory zone. That means the pipes under the streets, the water mains that bring the water to the homes, water meters, hydrants, hundreds of valves. It is a very significant public work project.
$29 million.
That leads to the next question of how will it impact the rebuild timeline? So,
many years, I was told today.
The current plan, and I don't imagine it will change, is permits will be issued for rebuild in this area as it will through the other areas. We will not be able to allow occupancy of the homes until we're complete with that work, upgrading the water system in that area or resolving it in some other manner.
How will people get loans if you won't issue occupancy? Those loans will be based on property that will be toxic, and lenders won't give loans for those properties.
So the question was a follow-up to what I noted, asking if you will not allow occupancy, how will you get a loan? That does exceed my knowledge in terms of the financing of your rebuild. I have heard sporadically that there are some issues with that. I'm hopeful once the city has a defined plan and schedule in place, that will be something homeowners can provide lenders to show that there is a clear path the city is committed to and moving on to resolve this problem by a target date. And if you want to call it a target date, when we do have the schedule for the rebuild, things don't always happen on schedule.
That's exactly right.
We have a great team of construction engineers that are looking at very creative ways to do this work, to accelerate the work at a very quick pace, far faster than it would otherwise be in a traditional project that we manage. We don't have the time, and I know some folks are very interested because there's decisions based on that. I will say in a few weeks we will have.
It's going to take a few years. That's what they said in the meeting that I attended today.
If you look at the map out there, you have an outlying territory area where there's a problem. Does that mean the areas outside of that outline have been found clear or just not yet been tested?
That's a very good question, and thank you for asking. The question was, outside of that area, is there contamination? Do you not know? Have you sampled? The answer is we've done extensive sampling throughout Fountain Grove and throughout the city. And the only places we are detecting this contamination is in the advisory zone. I drink the water outside of it, and I do believe it's safe based on the extensive monitoring. Within that advisory zone, we have valved off essentially all of it. We are seeing no migration and no signs of contamination elsewhere.
Are those people being told not to water their landscaping so that the benzene won't transition into the groundwater supply? I know that you won't answer my questions. Thank you very much.
You can ask additional questions again.
Yes, this is a Delphi meeting. Thank you.
Here, you can ask follow-up questions. But we do want to get to Pat, I believe, has some questions that he wants to answer, so I'll call him.
All right, so first of all, most of these questions are personal in nature, have to deal with specific parcel issues. So what I would like to do is I'd like my team of subject matter experts to raise your hands. They're around the room here. About 5 of us here tonight, and the reason I address your attention to them, those are the individuals that right after this in the room on the side, they could address your issue and capture your issue, make sure to respond to it. Just a couple things here. My lot was cleared on the 11th of December, still no all clear from USACE and why. So again, I have my Major Matt Holbrook back there raising his hand right now. He's my issue resolution officer, and he'll be able to capture that issue, and we'll be able to check on the status of that parcel, and hopefully be able to explain why in fact that happened. We have a big trench in our yard. The Army Corps contractors can be assistance refilling the 3-foot deep trench. Again, we need to capture the issue, capture the point of contact, and so we can check on that. Lot has been cleared for a couple weeks except for the burned cars. When can we expect these to be removed? So it's a 2-part process. DMV goes out and verifies the VIN on these vehicles. Once the VIN is verified, then the contractor comes back and removes those cars. That is what, in the phase after the removal, we'll call the final prep phase before the county is notified. And again, if we could get your name and contact information, we can check on that status for you. We already talked about sidewalks. Why did they take some driveways and leave others? There's a couple different reasons that possibly this could have happened. If the driveway, part of the driveway was in the ash footprint and was damaged by the fire, that would have been one reason. If it was damaged during the removal operations, that would have been another reason. I would like to address this specifically. So if we could also capture the specific address and the contact information for that. Thank you very much, and look forward to talking to you.
Thanks, Thanks. And finally, I'd like to invite Robert Pesman from FEMA. He's got a few questions. One.
All right. Question is it possible to get a copy of the soil test? If so, how? Do these tests include the geotechnical report that determines load to ensure that there are no expansive or liquefiable soils? So we're working through the process now. As we return these properties back to the county and they notify you, the homeowner, some additional information, and we're working on that now. I do not believe that the soil test will be included in the homeowner's report that's issued back to you in regards to your property, but certainly willing to, if this is a concern of the survivors, we're going to look into that. Yes.
Soil tests are usually acquired by property owners, and would only, if the owner had previously built or remodeled a house, there might be a soils report on file in the permit center. But if the house has been in existence for many years, the owner probably needs to acquire a new soils test.
Yeah, I can talk to that. So you're correct. So you don't have a soils test. What we're finding in areas like Coffee Park and others, that we are asking that soils tests be done and brought in so we can make sure that whatever is built, whatever footprint or foundation you use is appropriate and can be a successful project. So we are asking that you bring in a soils report for that. So at this point, what we're going to do is we're going to break into tables. So when
This
we
is
have
a Delphi meeting.
the county, we've got
I
the
will
city, the
comment
water
on this in a
department,
minute.
Corps of Engineers. Feel free to ask questions, and thank you very much for coming tonight.
Okay, this is Deborah Taveras, and I'm talking to a construction loan lender. And I asked a question during this Delphi meeting about, because they wouldn't answer my question on the note. They passed through it, I saw that. And so my question was, if the properties are in a contaminated zone, that is, there's roughly 324 homes in this identified area. I heard today at a water meeting that it could take up to 4 to 5 years to get the contamination handled because it's at a cost of $29 million to replace that infrastructure, and the city does not have that money. So they're wondering if someone, and they'll issue building permits, but if somebody needs a loan, it wouldn't make sense to me that a lender would collateralize against a piece of property that has toxins on it, because if you got that property back, you'd be stuck with a toxic waste dump. So am I correct in making that assumption, or do you lend on toxic waste dumps, like old laundry facilities, old gas station facilities, and an area that's contaminated with benzene, which is cancer-causing?
I can't speak to what lenders do in regards to commercial properties at all.
No, I'm talking residential.
For residential, because you mentioned the other.
And I did.
Yeah, but normally you're correct. I thought your point was excellent.
Thank you.
Because that is a big concern, and as a lender, typically what we need to see is that things like the water and septic, that those things are functioning and habitable, that you are able to obtain by the time the construction's finished a certificate of occupancy.
They won't issue a certificate of occupancy.
So this is something that's a unique problem to...
It's a big problem.
It is a big problem. It is rather unique in this circumstance compared to other fire situations that we've seen. So I think that is something that lenders right now are looking at and trying to figure out, how do we deal with this
okay, so
it's aware. A lot of lenders are aware of it, or at least the ones that are...
Okay, so now I need to ask you another question.
Yeah.
Okay, we have had such a toxic burn that UC Davis is involved in a 2-year study on the toxins of the soil and of the air and the consequences of people that have lived in the area of the burn, whether their homes have burned out or not. They've been under extremely toxic skies, and all of this ash and soot beside fine sediment has filtered in on everything. So as a lender, looking at the fact that I've been told that insurance companies will only do one renewal, and then it's questionable whether they will get insurance unless they go with fair trade. Do you, as a lender, go with that kind of insurance that has extremely amounts of uninsured aspects to their insurance?
Well, we have in previous fire situations work with the insurance company, insurance that's covered by fair trade. I don't know for what's happening in this circumstance because it is rather unique and unknown right now what the extent of, if there's extensive damage. I think we look at the existing policies and what the coverages are.
But they'll only extend one time. These are the insurance symposiums that I've attended thus far. They'll only get one renewal, and then that's it. And one renewal can come well before they start construction. So
well, the initial policies that are typically issued at the time of getting your construction loan always run for 1 year, and then the renewal would be for a second year.
But they're not renewing. What I'm saying to you right now, it's my understanding that current, so right now, let's just talk about a typical burned out situation. Okay, they're burned out. They have to pay their mortgage. They still have to pay an adjusted amount of property tax based on when their home was lost, and they have to pay insurance. They're being encouraged to continue with their insurance policies. They have to because many instances they have mortgages and they want to have insurance on those mortgages. They're being told not to cancel, to stay with those policies. They will only get 1 year renewal on those policies according to all of the major insurance companies. So suddenly we're going to have people that are going to have some aspect of current financing on their homes that are going to need to get additional financing and are not going to be able to get the construction insurance because that's a different insurance model.
It is. A course of construction insurance
is different
from a homeowner's policy. And what we're seeing with some of ours for the burn victims now is their policies are currently reduced. The homes are not there. They've had a reduction in their policy.
And that would make sense.
Makes sense.
Of course.
We're advising them to contact their insurance agents about that.
What I'm seeing right now is what the average traumatized burn victim is unaware of.
Yeah.
What I am seeing as a land developer myself and knowing construction, that these folks that are out here are rebuilding only on EPA and FEMA clearances for toxins. I have known a number of people in the burned areas that have gotten individual toxicology reports on homes that are still standing on the soil around their property, and it is highly contaminated. These people are itching, they're getting bloody noses, they're having trouble breathing, and UC Davis is in the process of assessing the health damages. So how would a lender look at a loan in a potentially ongoing study of toxins from UC Davis and lend on any aspect of rebuild when you could be finding yourself in an area of such toxins that it becomes a Superfund site? This is the potentiality here.
Yeah, I can't speak to that because I mean, on my side, what I do at my level is not, at that high, I'm not at a high enough level to be making those kinds of decisions.
But you're hearing what I'm saying.
I am, totally. I mean, that's why I wanted to talk to you because it is something that, we're, as landowners and developers, as homeowners, people in the community, I think everybody needs to, and as a lender, everyone is trying to make sure all the information is looked at, and I think it's going to be interesting to see how that develops.
I already know how it's going to go, okay? I want to tell you something. It was very discouraging seeing the Delphi technique implemented on these poor folks tonight. It's a Delphi protocol. It's a meeting of Delphi. So what do I mean by that? It's a controlled meeting where people have to fill out cards. We're filming them going through the cards. They would never ask my questions. When I found that they were answering questions from some of the other people in the audience, then I took the liberty to ask the question.
So are you saying that you wrote out cards but they declined to answer them?
Always.
Oh, interesting.
Always. So when I raised my hand and I asked that question, we scanned them and they were horrified. They did not want this question on the floor. These people deserve to know. The city is misinforming them, and they know it. Because I've gone to countless meetings after the burns, and the city is playing games with these poor people. And it makes me heartsick. It really makes me heartsick. Because I have family members that have lost homes. I have many friends that have lost homes. They're not recovering.
And I think soil study, but I think anybody that's going to rebuild needs to look at their, do their own due diligence.
But these people are not equipped to understand what they face, and they're being congealed by misinformation from the city. That benzene problem is enormous. They say, and that one of the questions I wrote to have them address was the air quality management says how toxic the areas are. You're to keep your windows closed, your doors closed. You're to not water any landscaping because of the toxins that will go into the groundwater supply. You're to one of the meetings I went to, they said to shampoo the carpets if you're in the immediate vicinity of the burns is not enough. You have to pull out your insulation in your walls and in your attic crawl spaces, as well as pull up carpets, your padding, and subfloors because of the fine particulate that came into all of these homes and into all of the appliances and into the electronics in these homes. These electronics are built in clean rooms. These people are not being informed by the insurance companies that their electronics are going to fail. It is such a scam that the city is pulling off on these people. It has made me so passionate over getting out the truth because they don't want me talking, and I'm shut down at every meeting. And so I have to ask very carefully questions that I'm hoping someone will hear, and I'm appreciative that you heard that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to keep all the questions open and people having the dialogue.
So that's what you
know.
That's what you saw here. You saw a controlled meeting.
Well, I think too, I mean, I think a lot of the meetings I have gone to have gotten out of control because there wasn't any kind of a format and it became a little bit of a free-for-all. So I think some of these meetings that it's being done purposely so that there can be a manner of conversation that can be constructive and make sure people's questions get addressed.
Well, I do agree with that. However, I have also attended meetings where people get the microphone and they get to ask their own question.
Yes.
I don't know if you observed all the cards that they were shuffling through and deciding who they would.
Yeah, I did look at that.
You did not notice that?
I did notice that. No, I didn't notice it, but I wasn't watching for that. Honestly, I was making my notes, trying to think about what other things I wanted to bring up in the next meetings that I go to, because I do think it's important to kind of keep the dialogue going with individual homeowners, the city, the county.
Okay, so I want to ask you another very important question.
I'm going to a lot of these meetings. I've seen you at a couple meetings already.
Okay, well, I want to ask you another very important question that they did not answer. They did not take my card. I heard on KSRO about a week ago that Sonoma Clean Power and Pacific Gas and Electric wanted to incentivize all the rebuilds to not provide gas, to only electrify the homes. Now, are you aware as a lender about the climate action plans in the city that the city is putting in to reduce greenhouse gas emissions? Okay. The city is suggesting that we should have zero waste, zero energy use. You're probably seeing zero on the new ecology dump trucks around the county, zero waste. There is no such thing as zero. So what does the lender do when the cities have approved plans saying that greenhouse gas emissions need to be reduced to zero or less? There are no people. So without people, how do you get your mortgages paid back? Has anyone thought about that fact?
No, because at this point, I mean, honestly, the power usage and permitting process, when it gets approved through city and county and it's available, that's the stuff that lenders are typically looking at. They're looking at those items.
I would really recommend that as somebody who's inquisitive, that you type in your computer search engine. You don't see it up here right now, but it said resilience.
Yes.
Okay, type in 100 resilient cities and check that out, because it is a diabolical plan and it is what is happening right now here in Sonoma County. And I looked at this plan and it is really horrific. It is orchestrated by Rockefeller and Rothschild. And the plan is all about massively reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Now we need greenhouse gas in order to survive. They pump in greenhouse gas into greenhouses and the plants flourish. So how on earth did so many policies based on falses get put in that you as a lender are going to have to create mortgages for? So it's just an interesting question. I, as a multi-generational land developer, started looking into what was going on, and I fell into the unthinkable.
The policy-making portion is interesting. That is why I go to a lot of the meetings to see what is being proposed, what's being discussed, how it could impact me later.
Well, then I will suggest something. You might want to go to our website, StopTheCrime.net. You may be stunned, and you may be sad, but everything in it is true.
There's a lot to continue to look at. So anyway, I just appreciated that you brought up a question that I felt was interesting.
I don't know if you saw their faces.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, they did not want that question asked, and it's a question these poor people need to know.
But all the questions, they're appropriate. They should be asked. If people have that on their minds, it's important that at least...
What is your first name?
Jennifer.
Jennifer. I'm Deborah.
Deborah. So I'll see you at another meeting.
And I'm sure you will.
I've seen you at a couple already.
You will.
So,
come up and say hi.
I will.
Okay,
all right.
Jennifer. Thank you for letting me know about that. Thank you. So this was a lender that heard my question that I barely got asked before I was Delphi. So I appreciate that someone heard that, but sadly I don't believe that the homeowners did. This will be on StopTheCrime.net. This is Deborah Taveras and Lou Taveras on the scene of another massive crime here in Sonoma County. And this is February the 15th of 2018, and this is regarding the rebuilds. I want the camera to scan the room. I want to describe what we're seeing. This is a Delphi meeting in the sense that they're individual tables where sadly these burn victims go to and ask individual questions. This isn't a field question opportunity. This is tightly controlled. Again, this is all based on the RAND Corporation and the Tavistock method in which meetings are organized and how they're held. And it's very important to understand how the people are being fleeced. It is a very sad, sad thing. So this will continue to monitor the recovery and the rebuilding of Sonoma County. We'll keep all of you posted because whether you're in a fire, a flood, or a tornado or a hurricane, or massive weaponized weather assaults, as we were here in Sonoma County with the directed energy weapons, you are going to experience this kind of follow-up. Ruthless, stealth, and deceitful. Again, Deborah Taveras on the scene of another crime with StopTheCrime.net. I would urge you all to pay attention to our recent YouTubes on our channel. Thank you very much.
They're having to replace a lot of stuff. The plan is to go back with underground systems if they were with you. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, great. Yeah, that was a concern at first when Coffee Park and all the poles and that. They were just trying to get power out there quick so people can start the rebuild.
And if our sidewalk was damaged, but it's not a big, just a small chunk, maybe about that long in the removal process. How do we go about working that out with the city?
During what part? During the
debris removal.
So is it a Corps of Engineers debris removal process?
Yes.
Yeah, so they're going to be responsible for that. So send documentation, like a picture, and then actually before you leave, I would actually talk to the Corps of Engineers.
I already filled out a form.
We did,
but I didn't send a picture to them.
So I would grab them, find somebody there, and just say, what exactly do you need to make sure this gets addressed? Because they're here. I would talk to them directly. Okay.
They're responsible for that.
Okay.
So, yeah.
They are responsible.
They are, yeah. As part of their contract is to include that.
Okay. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you.
So I wanted to ask you a question. Every time I turn in questions, they're never asked. And I notice that questions are taken on the floor by other people. I had some extremely important questions that the people need to know about.
Yeah.
And after I asked that question about the lending against areas that are potentially tainted with benzene and the fact that they may not get construction financing, it's not fair to misinform the people that are needing to know whether they're going to rebuild or not. And I am respectful at all the meetings. I come to the meetings, I fill out forms.
He tried to answer that question for you, and then the problem is we didn't want to get into a back and forth all night because I had to get all these people up here. I had a short time frame.
Well, I appreciate that, and
so
that's a nice way to try to back out of.
I'm not backing out.
You are,
no,
because you didn't stop anyone else.
There's a process.
You didn't know.
We tried, but we gave you one question that you threw out from the floor, and that was okay. And then once we got into back two more, I had to say.
Many people were asking questions. You did not stop anyone else but me.
People only did it once.
No, there was a couple of people that asked several questions. I have it on film.
Okay.
So I can assure you they did.
Okay.
But I will tell you.
I didn't see that, so I apologize.
Well, I did.
I tried to keep it to one and then move on because there's a lot of people that have questions in here, and I'd rather do the one-on-one. And we're trying.
I know you'd rather do the one-on-one, and I will tell you.
We're trying to get information out the best we can. And I apologize if that did work for you. And we're trying different formats to make sure.
No, you're not. It's all a Delphi meeting. They're all set up in the Delphi technique, where people individually go up to the tables. There's no floor dialogue with these people that are traumatized. No, you took questions and you went through and you decided which ones you were going to ask. You never asked mine.
Which one was yours? We went through all of them.
No, you didn't ask mine. I was on a purple card, and it was about the air quality management control. It probably is in there somewhere. It's in pencil. It's in purple. It's in pencil. But I want to tell you, it was about the air quality management control. Here it is. The air quality management says to stay indoors, don't water your landscaping, close your windows, wear nose guards, and so my question is, how do you permit people to live in trailers back on their property when the air quality management control is cautioning them to this degree of toxins?
Oh, I think so I read this, and I can't verify this. I don't want to read this false information.
Oh, it's on their form.
Do you have the documentation?
Not right here with me, but it's on their form.
So I need to see.
I'll bring that. I'll actually bring that.
I'll look it up too, because I'll call the air quality board, because if that's a true statement, I don't know that.
What next meeting will you be to? Because I'll happily bring that and hand that to you. I'll get it for you.
I know the air quality board. I'll call them.
Well, I've got that form which says what it's listed.
I'll call them directly, because if that's
a very important question. This is a very important question.
This is a statement. I guess I'm trying to figure out, is this a true statement? And I need to back it up first.
Well, you can back it up. Call them up.
I will.
It's a true statement.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, so this was a way in which to apologize for a strategy in a meeting that he is all too well aware of what he did. The woman that walked up to me to talk to me about the question I asked, because she was a lender, noticed the faces on the panel. They didn't want to discuss that. We're going to walk into the crowd. We're going to talk to Colonel McFadden here that represents the military. And we're going to talk to him about the bodies that might still be buried from the senior facility when Gallagher took debris out without a permit, and they cordoned that area off. So we're going to walk over here right now to discuss this.
Who do I talk to? Oh, in the other room?
Next off to the side.
Okay. What's the form called?
It's an issue intake form.
Oh, okay.
That just captures the information.
Okay. And I'll check it out. All right. Very good. Thank you.
Thanks.
Colonel Fred Levin.
Hey, Fred. How are you? Nice to meet you.
I got a question for you.
Okay.
The Corps, or one of its subcontractors, put a fence around my pool.
Correct.
I want to demolish the pool, and I want to get rid of the fence.
Okay.
Who do I talk to?
Well, once the parcel's notified, the county's been notified, and it goes back from the county to you, you can remove the fence.
I should remove it.
Yeah.
Not the Corps.
No, because right now it poses, if you have somebody fall in there, it's a chance of risk to public safety. So that's why pools are fenced.
I understand why. These guys are, I have guys that are using it for skateboarding.
Really? That's a fun idea.
No, it's not.
Can we get a picture of it?
Well, that's dirty now, but it's really...
Also, according to the Marin Sonoma Vector Control, all of that is a mosquito larva habitat. They're very, very concerned about West Nile virus this year because of the extreme heat and all the divots and all of the pools and hot tubs that are around.
Yeah.
So that should be a reason that the county should assist you in the cost of eliminating that.
I would think so.
And they should, but of course we've got a bigger problem than just that. But I had also a question really fast, if I may. And then I'd love to talk with you a little bit more. Colonel McFadden.
Thank you, Colonel. Yes, sir. It's good talking to you.
I wanted to ask you a question. How is the investigation going with the allegations from the senior facility up there on the hill when they were eliminating debris material without a permit, Gallagher, and they cordoned off the area of the senior care facility, and they also sent. So you're not aware that there was the allegations that there were many dead bodies of seniors that were towed away to the landfill? It's in the newspaper.
I read in the newspaper.
Yeah, well, I'm just referring, that's all I'm asking you is what you know about that. I read it in the newspaper too.
Yeah,
and I figured that perhaps you had some more information on that.
No, I'm not aware of the investigation.
Okay. So I realize now, in what capacity will you remain here with the military operation here? Are you going to be, in what capacity?
Me personally, or
no, just
the Army Corps of Engineers?
The Army Corps of Engineers.
It'll be for the transition plan. It'll be mutually agreed upon from the state, FEMA, as well as us to determine when transition occurs to facilitate moving on.
Because I'm noticing in some of the other horrific weather events that are happening across the country, that when we know that hundreds of thousands of homes have either been flooded out, for example, in Houston, or some hurricanes in Florida, there's a lot of media coverage for a short while, and then you hear nothing about it. I can tell you right now that many of our friends are unaware of the follow-up here with the fires, and we're in a toxic waste dump site problem here. We've got benzene in the water supply and in the soil, that no one has done any heavy metal testing. We know with all of the types of materials that were burned in these homes at such a high temperature, that UC Davis is conducting a 2-year study on the health effects of everybody in the area as a result of these fires.
That's good.
Yes, but a 2-year study to find out if we end up like 9/11. A lot of those first responders ended up dying of cancer 8 years later. We're going to have, sadly, that kind of possibility here because of the enormity of the toxins that burned. And what have you heard, if anything, about the cause of the fire? Have you heard anything? Oh, that's okay. What have you heard, if anything, about the cause of the fire here in Northern California?
Just rumor and speculation. It's probably the same that's been in the news. So I heard nothing official, unfortunately.
So you're not hearing any other possibilities then, other than what you're reading in the
I don't know
in the disinfo news? Well, you know, that's an interesting question, and I could maybe give you some direction to that if you're interested.
I do need to check out my team out here and see what issues we're collecting, but I'd be interested to...
Well, I'll just give you this much information. Pacific Gas and Electric and the California Public Utility Commission were required about 4 years ago to hand over about 50,000 documents as a response to directing their smart meter director at Pacific Gas and Electric to get into a Google group that was opposing smart meters. And when that man was caught trying to get into the Google group, a lawsuit ensued. And after a number of years, the law judge required Pacific Gas and Electric to download 50,000 documents. There was an email exchange between the California Public Utility Commission and Pacific Gas and Electric. that Pacific Gas and Electric, and it was between 6 people, back and forth with 6 people copied all total, that they would be using satellite lasers in Northern California. Now we know that the military has laser capabilities. We know that this is used typically in wars now. We recently found out that acoustic weapons were used on our own politicians in Cuba, and that they have now been reported suffering brain damage, eye vision impairment, and hearing loss. I don't know if you've heard of that either.
Just was on the news.
Well, now you're hearing this story because these emails are out in the public domain. And yet many people are very much aware that this was an abnormal fire. It burned at abnormal temperatures. It caught the firemen completely off guard, and they were traumatized by the inability to stop this fire. And it roared like no fire.
Anything else for me?
No, I'll talk to
FEMA man, hi, hey, how are you?
Yes, I remember you from the City Council meetings.
And I'm sure you do. I attend quite a few meetings. U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, I have the whole cabal right here.
Yeah.
Okay, so, I found it very interesting at the meeting yesterday that I attended, where both I think you were, maybe you weren't, but I know you were.
Yep.
When you were asked about Journey's End.
Yeah.
And the fact that there were 44 trailers that were still potentially accessible to live in, but they had no hookups of water or electricity.
Right.
And the city council wanted to know why you would terminate housing on these people.
We don't terminate housing.
Well, then maybe that's the wrong word. I heard you say, correct me if I'm wrong, that their housing was up today or tomorrow, and because they could return to their mobile home trailer in Journey's End, but there's no hookups. Is that what I heard?
I think what you heard was that in our transitional sheltering assistance, which is the hotel and motel program,
right?
At some point, we have to end that program and transition those survivors into alternate housing, and that we were working with that subset of survivors to work them into other more temporary housing, because hotels are not considered, a temporary housing solution. It's more of a sheltering solution.
Okay, so when you were asked by Council Member Combs about her concern that FEMA was not going to follow through with housing potentially with these 8 applicants that were approved by FEMA, that they may end up in between not having housing right away. And she wanted to find out why FEMA would not consider returning these people to those homes as not being safe. It wasn't safe. She said it wasn't safe. You really didn't respond, and so I'm feeling like there's this vacuum of homelessness that may potentially increase because there is no housing here.
We don't determine a place. When we look at when you register for FEMA assistance, we send an inspector out and we determine whether your home is damaged, destroyed, based on our assessment. But we don't condemn properties. We don't tell homeowners they can't go back.
I
just make a
understand that.
determination for financial assistance and small business administration.
I understand that because that is what you said at the meeting, and I did hear that. But it fell in between the cracks when that was what you said, and the city was wondering, well, then where are these people going to go? Because there isn't interim housing. And I think it was 8 families that qualified. I don't know how many applied for FEMA assistance, but only 8 apparently qualified. So the concern is for those 8 people or families, where are they going to go? Was their last day today?
So
did I understand their last day with FEMA?
Today's the 15th.
Yes.
They would have to check out tomorrow.
See, I'm remembering this fairly well, and I was very disturbed by what I heard because we have such an escalating homeless problem here.
Yeah,
and it's getting worse, as you may observe.
The city's engaged. We're working closely to ensure that they have a place to go. And so I haven't heard that anybody's being left out in the homeless. That we're working.
Oh, I'm hearing a lot of people.
I mean, I guess in this situation, I don't know. If I'm not aware on this situation that their housing needs are being temporary housing needs are being met for the Journey's End for these applicants.
Temporary housing.
Their needs are being met.
Their needs are being met.
They're not. My understanding, nobody's going to be left out on the street. in this case. Now, I can't speak to the entire disaster. I think you had a pre-disaster homeless situation prior to the disaster.
And now it's doubled.
I'm sure with the lack of housing, that's true. FEMA is already housed temporarily over 150.
Okay, so the question I did not get to ask because it was not part of the agenda item is what about the FEMA trailers at the fairgrounds? Am I understanding that those are going to be pulled in a few weeks? What am I understanding about that?
So you have to, and I just actually talked to a survivor here. So, you know, when you register for FEMA, we look at eligibility.
Yes.
And we look at insurance. So
yes.
It's a sequence of delivery.
I understand.
Insurance is first. So
see what you can extract out of there in coverage to reimburse you, basically.
Right. Well,
so now we have all these trailers.
Benefits. So if you're getting a allowable living expense on your insurance, you can go get your own temporary unit or your own rental unit. That we're not also providing the same financial services. We can't duplicate.
You can't double it. I know.
Let's just say that person doesn't have assistance, right? Then FEMA's the last resort potentially. And so for temporary housing, we determine whether you don't have insurance, your home was destroyed, you can't go back to, you know. Then
and they get a FEMA trailer.
They potentially could
after they're qualified.
Correct.
So I'm talking about only the qualified people that are in the fairgrounds right now in the trailers.
Right.
Now I'm understanding that there's going to be the trailers are going to be taken away soon. Is that correct?
If you're in temporary housing in our federal program,
FEMA trailers,
it's an 18-month program.
Okay. So these folks are not being terminated anytime soon out of these trailers.
No.
Then I'm thinking perhaps you should go down to the fairgrounds and alleviate their concerns.
Well, we might have moved a lot of extra units there, and maybe we're determining that we may not need them. So
But people are living in them. Well, now the story is becoming a little clear.
Right. So we're not taking anybody who's in a FEMA temporary housing. We're not asking them to leave. Our program's 18 months.
If they're in the program, but if you had extra units that you brought there, just as you said, then those are the units. Am I correct in following your story that those could be the units that are taken because those people didn't qualify to be there under FEMA?
No, we want to make sure what we don't want to do is have units. A lack of units. We always identify. We don't want to come. We want to make sure we have enough.
Right. So you brought maybe a few extras. Right. So you allowed families to stay in those few extra.
No. Everybody who's in a
none are empty over there. People are living in them, right?
Anybody who's in a trailer now is a qualified applicant and can remain there up to 18 months.
Okay. So how many trailers are there right now?
I don't know off the top of my head, but.
I'm seriously thinking that you need to go over there then and talk to those occupants because they are feeling very frightened, very insecure, and they're with the misunderstanding that they can only be there a few more weeks and then they have to be.
Are you sure they're with FEMA? Now
they're in FEMA trailers.
Okay, are you sure? Because we're not the only people. The FEMA trailers aren't the only trailers there. So I should make sure when you're talking to somebody that they're in a qualified applicant with FEMA and they're in a FEMA trailer. They could be in their own trailer and we have our own lease in a different agreement. I can't speak to every agreement.
I see.
I think there's something that if you're a normal person and you were living there that you can establish residency, and I don't know if that's the issue, but we have a lease agreement with the fairground for the FEMA eligible applicants.
Okay.
And it could be a situation you're talking to a survivor who's not with FEMA.
So can I have your card? I'm going to go over and interview these people in the trailers. If I'm understanding what you're telling me. Right. Thank you for clearing that up. So if I find somebody that's actually qualified for FEMA, living in a FEMA trailer, and they have concerns on top of being displaced and suffering from the loss of their home and all their possessions, they don't need to sit there if it's unnecessary and have that kind of worry that they're going to be kicked out by you.
They can always ask us. We're in constant with all the FEMA.
Do you have a card?
I don't, but Frank Mansell with our external affairs handles all the inquiries and can.
I just want to help alleviate some of the fear that is on the streets.
Right.
And I think that's only reasonable for good-meaning people to try to do, given the enormity of the disaster we find ourselves in. Yeah. So I do appreciate your time.
Yeah, so let me, and also you can find Frank, he should be in the back. with the FEMA team, but he can get you information.
Can you point me to him because I?
Oh, see him? He's if you go all the way back on the right, he's got a blue shirt and jeans on. It goes down to here. He's by our individual assistant staff table.
What?
I'll walk you this way.
Okay, thank you. So we're following the FEMA guy over to get a card.
Right there in the middle.
Gray hair, holding a briefcase.
Bald. No, the guy in front of him.
So what do I tell him? I need your card?
Yeah, he'll get you on.
Come on with me. It's only 25 feet.
Hey, Frank, can you exchange information with this woman? She might
Hi,
have some
Deborah.
inquiries and
Nice to
follow-ups.
meet
Frank's
you.
with the General Affairs team.
Okay, wonderful.
In terms of Journey's End.
No, not Journey's, the fairgrounds.
Okay.
Yeah, thank
All right.
you. Hi, I appreciate
Frank.
that. Hi,
Let me
Frank.
give you a
Deborah.
card.
Thank you.
And your name is?
My name is Deborah, and I was talking to this gentleman, Robert. He didn't have a card. What I'm understanding the concern is with some of the folks that are in the FEMA trailers in the fairgrounds, that they are concerned that their FEMA trailers are going to be removed shortly, and they have nowhere to go. And so what is the situation there? Because we're going to go there and film this and put this up on YouTube. And if these people are being terminated before, or there's a misunderstanding, I'm hoping that there's a misunderstanding.
I have not heard anything about that.
Okay, well, then that's why I have your card. Because what we're trying to do is be good citizens, be good people to people that are suffering from massive loss. They've lost their homes, and I know you know that.
Yeah, that's why, this is the first I've heard about this. This is the county lot?
This is the fairgrounds. Yeah, and so I'm understanding that there are a number of people that are living in the FEMA trailers right now that are under the belief that they have to move out soon.
No, I don't believe that's the case, but I'll check into it for you. Yeah,
Okay.
If you'll provide me with your information. Yeah, we need your information.
Well, I'll get a hold of you because I'm in all of the meetings.
Okay.
And I'm following this very closely. And I will go out there and I will talk to people, and then
I'll talk with our people in the morning because
it needs to be straightened out. Well, now you have. And apparently some other people have gone out and spoken with some of these people, and they are very stressed out.
Okay.
And they don't need to be stressed out if there's a misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Well,
get on that.
I don't know how they. The first thing is, is we need to allay their fears, and then secondly, we need to find the source of their
information.
Of that information.
Because
well, that's why I came up to you. That's why I came up to you to talk to you about it. Because
there is a mobile home park in Mendocino where we're going to have them move into a different campground.
But they're not taking their trailers away from them.
Okay, so so in Mendocino you have a mobile home park.
Yep.
And who supplies those trailers?
FEMA.
Is that FEMA too? How long are people eligible to stay in the FEMA trailers?
It depends if it's a long-term or
Depends on the situation, but it's usually up to about 18 months.
Oh, well, these people aren't going to recover their housing by then.
Well, they're what?
They won't recover their housing by then. These people won't recover housing by then. We have
no, they may not.
And they won't. I can assure you.
But by 18
so then they're out on
months,
the streets.
18 months they've had an opportunity to make to seek their own remedy. That's a long time.
No, not in this county, because there was really such limited housing before the fires, and now there's less. I mean, I have friends that lost $1 million plus homes that have had to move out of state. They were homeless, $1 million homeowners.
I understand.
So the folks that are in the service industry and finding housing, I mean, we're talking
horrible. They have to leave the county.
And they do.
Yep.
And they are.
And that happens
disaster but it's not an open-ended thing. It's not an open-ended thing. I got to tell you that right up front. It's not open-ended. But nobody's running them out right now. That's for sure.
And 18 months is not necessarily long enough.
And that's not. that's the
Can they
usual.
extend past 18 months?
There have been situations where they've extended that.
Individually, they don't wholesale extend everybody past 18.
Because they need the trailers at the next disaster.
Let's get this one. Let's get this thing solved.
Well, it seems to be, doesn't it? We're having disasters all over the country. Are you? Do you go to other disasters as well?
Use the same trailers.
You don't. What do you do with the trailers then?
They're turned back through auction, are they not?
They auction them off.
They auction them off.
GSA. General
Okay,
Service
so what about the formaldehyde issues back in Hurricane Katrina with the FEMA trailers? That obviously, I'm assured, is
Well, you know
remedied.
what? Every trailer has formaldehyde in it. Every piece of fabric has formaldehyde in it.
But it usually doesn't present itself in such a degree that it makes people sick.
We learned a lot from Katrina and the things like that. So, you know, I can't tell you because I don't know that they're formaldehyde free, but it's not. It hasn't been an issue since then, and the motorhome and trailer industry has evolved way beyond that. So it's not necessarily they're going to have it. I have a motorhome that I have, and it probably has formaldehyde in it.
Oh, and I lived in one.
He
I
lives
lived in one for 11 years.
Yeah, so.
Well, let's we can certainly say a little bit of poison isn't, a little bit of cancer is okay.
No, that's not it. But
Well,
we're not going to solve the thing tonight, okay?
I do
Let's
know.
get this other thing straightened out first, okay? And then right now we're trying to take care of these people. We don't need to be.
Well, you've heard a concern, and I'm glad you have, so that you can mitigate their concerns. Because if they're sitting there,
we'd love to.
Concerned, they don't need to be. It sounds like to me.
You bet.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Okay.
Thanks. We're going around to the various tables right now. Hi, looking at the various documents. Well, what is this? Oh, Disaster Recovery Resources. U.S. Department. Oh, HUD. One of my favorite.
Oh, that's nice to see.
Not really, actually. Their policies are to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and of course, that's sort of a climate fraud, don't you think? Yeah.
Balance. So I'm not from HUD. So balance. This is our resources.
Okay. Well, they're recommending that emission level go to 0. And 0, there is no life. We need greenhouse gas emissions. That's what they use when they provide life and leafage in greenhouses. With eliminating greenhouse gases entirely, there are no people. Did you ever look at it that way? So that's what they're advocating. So when I said that, I meant that. You didn't write those policies for them. You just work for them. But you do need to know that aspect of the policies, because there's a real interesting reality around 0.
And then good resources from Catholic Charities to help disaster relief, navigating the paperwork, transferring, good resources.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. You have a good evening. So I'm just looking around at the various tables. I certainly rebel-roused this place quite a bit with my question earlier about the insurance and the loans with properties that had poisons on them. So I'm seeing who else I can go talk to right now. You're getting the gist of how these meetings operate. This is how they operate in your town. This is what a disaster is going to look like in your town. This is Northern California, again, as a result of fires that raged through our community in October of 2017. People are displaced. There's homeless all over the county. They're living in trailers, and many have left. There is no housing. And I was just talking to the FEMA representatives trying to mitigate a concern that I heard was occurring at the fairgrounds with the FEMA trailers, that people are afraid that they're going to be displaced out of the FEMA trailers. So they're assuring me that that's not the case, and they're going to go to the fairground tomorrow. And hi, how are you? They're going to go to the fairgrounds tomorrow and certainly relieve these people's impressions. So I'm seeing some interesting people that are hanging around here. Certainly people that are part of the tearing apart of Sonoma County that have come in from out of state and are certainly profiteering off of the loss here. We know that we have James Witt in town, who is certainly bringing in pay for play, foreign nationals, moving them in.
See you soon.
And so, thank you very much. This is Deborah Taveras. Thank you.